Okay. We're on lesson number 152 of a workbook of A Course in Miracles. The power of decision is my own. Now, I don't really know how to talk about this morning because the power of decision is my own, and somewhere within each and every one of us, there has to be a recognition that we are deciding and we have decided, and the willingness to see that we get the result of our decisions, and therefore when we change our mind we can make a new decision and get a different result. Now, I don't know when the Course says the power of decision is my own, the idea that there needs to be a discussion about what it is or who you. Here's a good example. Let's read a couple of paragraphs and I'll show you what I'm talking about. No one can suffer loss unless it be his own decision. No one suffers pain except his choice elects this state for him. No one can grieve, nor fear, nor think him sick, unless these are the outcomes that he wants. And no one dies without his own consent. Nothing occurs but represents your wish, and nothing is omitted that you choose. Here is your world, complete in all details. Here is its whole reality for you, and it is only here salvation is. So here is the place where choice is occurring. Now, most of the discussions, there's many discussions that take place are based on who is the you that is doing the choosing, and attempting to find that you who is doing the choosing and come into some sort of definition of who the you is that's being spoken to and who the you is that is making the choice, and yet you are the one that's being spoken to, as I am the one that's being spoken to, as the power of decision is my own. And at some point, the recognition that the free will that we were created with has been reduced to the power of decision, that we can, decisions that we can make in order to make our life what it is we think it is. And it doesn't take much to realize that the experiences that you're having are a result of the decisions that you made or not made because you refused to make a decision as well. Now, who is that you? I don't really know if it matters. I do know that it matters to you how you live your life and the results that you're getting. And obviously, if the results that you're getting are indicated in the paragraph we just read, perhaps you would like to reconsider the decisions you have made and recognize possibly that the decisions that you've made or left unmade have brought you the consequences that you're experiencing, and myself as well. And in that, the ability to say, wait a second, maybe there's a way we can change our mind here and a new way to look at things so we don't have to continue to get these results over and over again and repeat these cyclical patterns that we live in, and including the cyclical pattern of death to life to death again, and on until we see that no one dies without his own consent. You may believe that this position is extreme and too inclusive to be true, yet can truth have exceptions? If you have the gift of everything, can loss be real? That's a reasonable question to ask. Don't worry about whether you believe or know or think you have everything. Just look at that as, because when a question like this comes up, in these lessons, if you have the gift of everything, can loss be real? What he's going to go on to say is, what obscures the obvious nature of the ability for you to look at that reasonably and view it in the affirmative is not the question, but it's what the ego brings to mind and its need to define everything as different from the choices that you're making right now. so as to keep you from making the choice and seeing the reasonability of the divine logic that is within A Course in Miracles. Can pain be part of peace or grief of joy? Can fear and sickness enter a mind where love and perfect holiness abide? Now, those are just questions. The attempt to justify your thinking, rather than just look directly at these questions and answer them reasonably, it's not asking you whether you're experiencing this. It's just asking you to look at the reasonability of singularity, of totality, of wholeness. And then when you agree, you can begin, you have a means to sort out the things that you're given the ability to make decisions of, so as to ask for a true outcome rather than to continue getting false positive results. Truth must be all-inclusive if it be true at all, accept no opposite, and no exceptions. For to do so is to contradict truth entirely. Okay, this is just all very reasonable Socratic thinking to put you in a position of beginning to recognize what's been occurring, not to make you guilty for what is occurring, but to give you a context within which choosing can lead out of guilt and out of fear. Salvation is the recognition that the truth is true and nothing else is true. Now, this is the important part. This is key for everyone, for all of us, who have somehow participated in the rebellious act of separation that caused our seeming fall from grace within this hallucination of a world of space and time. Salvation is the recognition that truth is true and nothing else is true. This you have heard before, but may not yet accept both parts of it. Without the first, the second has no meaning. Truth is true, but without the second, is the first no longer true, and nothing else is true. Now, the reason that it's worded this way, truth can have no opposites. Okay, now, in the oppositional nature of the experience of separation, where we think that there is an opposite to everything, and we get the result of that opposition in the experience that we have here in space and time, it is necessary to focus both sides of the opposition on a single point, so as to have the Holy Spirit be allowed to bridge that gap as the answer to the separation, as the answer to the conflict in our mind, as an answer to that rift that we experience that causes us to look upon something and become aware of something to its opposite. So when we say truth is true and nothing else is true, it focuses the both sides of the split in our mind on a single point, much as a paradox does, and in our desire to no longer want the conflict that's presented by the paradox in its, in a sense, vast view of arrays of problems within which we see it. We're focusing our attention on a single point and allowing that focus to activate something that's not within the parameters of the conflict that we're experiencing and seeing and viewing, and yet is within us, that allows the dawning of the wholeness of truth to become recognizable in our experience of ourself. Truth can have no opposite. This cannot be too often said and thought about. Yes. So truth is true and nothing else is true. And what these lessons are presenting us with is a framework around which we can exercise the power of decision, which is our own. So we do these lessons, we get up in the morning, and we set our mind on the idea for the day, do the practice as is indicated, and then recall it as often as we can, because your only function here is salvation. As he said before, as he said, your only accomplishment is salvation. Everything else is a distraction from that, because it is what everyone wants to experience. The idea that they are saved, that they are safe from the dilemmas that the world seemingly presents them, that obviously in the end bring about their demise. Yet those are just that's just an outpicturing of an inward condition of thinking within a bubble of space and time, much as though you're in an IMAX theater and you feel like you're part of the action that's being shown, and you don't know how you got there or why you're there. But it's happening all around you, and you're the projectionist. It's being projected from your own mind and heart, and you're seeing it acted out on stages. And now you're being given the ability to accept the rewrite of the script in the recognition that the power of decision is your own. Nothing but the truth is true, and what is false is false. This is the simplest distinction. This is what I was trying to say before. Jesus always says it much better than I do, of course. This is the simplest distinction, yet the most obscure, but not because it is difficult distinction to perceive. Okay, if you've gone through the questions in the beginning of this, you can see the simplicity of the questions that are being asked of you, not the complexity that the ego would impose over the simplicity of the question, but in simple yes or no's. In the simple yes or no's, in the simplicity of the question as he asked them, is the simplicity of salvation placed, and the ability to say yes to that simplicity can now begin to override the complexity of the distortions that are placed upon and over that in order to hide the simplicity of what it is we're here to say yes to and accept as true. This is the simplest of distinctions, yet the most obscure, but not because it is difficult a distinction to perceive. It is concealed behind a vast array of choices which do not appear to be entirely your own, and thus the truth appears to have some aspects that belie consistency and do not seem to be but contradictions introduced by you. Now, this was one of the things that I had to come to understand when I first began to utilize A Course in Miracles. There's no inconsistencies within the Course at all, none whatsoever. Because truth is true and nothing else is true, and this document is about altruism. The inconsistencies that I see are in my lack of willingness to accept the truth is true and nothing else being true. And if I allow this to mean what it says and let Jesus be the authority of what this says as the author of these words that come through him in an attempt to help us understand who we are in reality, then every time I experience an inconsistency, I can apply the questions that are given to me to ask, rather than go into the vast array of choices which do not appear to be my own. If we remember the idea that this is an amnesia. We're in an amnesia. It's a forgetting. It's a forgetting. And the forgetting impacts everything that goes on. So we have forgotten many of the choices that we've made, thinking then, well, where did these come from? They must have been made for me. No, they were made in the forgetting, by the forgetting. They were made in the forgetting by those who have forgotten. And so there's no remembering in them. There's just a constant rehashing of the forgetting. So we're looking for an answer where an answer is not. You have to extract yourself from that for a second and go to where the true choice can be made not based on the array of variables that seem to be present, but on the power of decision being our own, and applying the simplicity of the fact that truth is true and nothing else is true in the midst of the complexity, to allow the Holy Spirit to enjoin us, give us comfort in the acceptance of the truth is true and the false as being false. And the false includes all the consequences that we seem to suffer in the world of space and time. And that indicates something other than our own decisions are what's causing the problem. So now we make that distinction. We say, okay, I don't know. I really don't know. Based on everything that's going on, I have no way of telling, I have no way of knowing. But I'm willing to accept that the truth is true and nothing else is true, and allow that distinction to be made for me as my choice for that which has been brought with me, given to me by God to represent the totality of the truth in my own experience of myself. And as I reawaken to that, I reawaken to the reality that occurs in that bridge moment, in that holy instant, in that moment of forgiving myself for all I thought had been done unto me, with the recognition, experientially, that because I had done it to myself, it is undone in the instant I decide differently, and it goes backward and forward in space and time and clears it all out for me and gives me a brand new whole perspective. And that's what's occurring. As God created you, you must remain unchangeable, with transitory states by definition false. And that's what we're seeing in the midst of these transitory states where we seem to get lost. We have the ability to make a true choice to show us that our reality is not transitory. It is totally consistent, and there's nothing else but that. And in that, not conceptually, because conceptually the ego will turn that into boring. Oh, there's no change. I mean, it's just changeless state of the same, blah, blah, blah. The ego will just change that into boring when reality is not boring at all. Reality is constantly creating and renewing itself and renewing you, and the renewing of your willingness to take your part in it, and the willingness to take your part in creation and reality is paralleled here by your willingness to take part in the plan for atonement through forgiveness. So that's what we're here to do today. The power of decision is my own. That's a good thing to know. For a moment, the ego, of course, is going to cast shadows on that and want you to cower back from it and experience guilt and shame from decisions you think you've made in the past that you're suffering from now. But the truth of the matter is, the good news is the power of decision is my own, is your own. And we can use that power in a new way because we're beginning a new way to look at everything, to judge it. We're reassociating everything with the truth. And when we want only the truth, and the truth is only truth, nothing else has any value, so there's no place for it to exist in our own heart and mind, and it simply fades away as what is true. The light and love of truth begins to become forward in our mind rather than repressed and suppressed down into our unconscious. Okay, so you all have a good day.